Hello, Horror Hounds. Right, Suspiria 2018. Let's do this. Whilst this is a remake, I think the only way to fairly assess it is perversely not to compare it to Dario Argento and Dario Nicolodi's original Suspiria. There are some people who've used this new retelling of that new remix. It's not really a remake of the original film, as the sort of boost they need to, in a weird sense, come out and say they never liked Argento's 1977 Suspiria and prefer this, think it's a better film, think it's a better horror film. That's fine. You know, not everyone has to like all the same movies. And as a fan of Dario Argento, long-term viewers of this channel will know that I hold Argento in the absolute highest of esteem amongst horror directors. I can even get why some people would watch Suspiria and go, what is this? What is this? There's no story. What story there is doesn't make sense. It looks all freaky and expressionistic. Things happen for no reason other than style over substance, which is a phrase I hate. Everything is to create a desired effect, and if the storyline isn't your primary mode of communication, then, well, you know, especially in Italian horror cinema, well, the story can kind of hang around the periphery. One of the things I will say in favour of Suspiria 2018 is that it does not attempt in any way, shape or form to be Dario Argento and Dario Nicolodi's 1977 Suspiria. And I think that instinct was absolutely correct. What I will do to sort of highlight the context in which I'm talking about this film, I saw it a couple of nights ago now. There's only one screening a day here in my city, and it's a screening that begins around about 10 p.m. each evening, probably for 1 week only, which means that in a fairly empty Friday night theatre that kicked out about 1:15 the next morning, I was stood, forgive me, taking my ease at the urinal, and a couple of stalls to the left of me sort of struck up and said, "Well, what did you make of that then?" Which is notable for a couple of reasons. Mainly that guys who don't know each other don't talk to each other at urinals, especially British guys who don't know one another, don't really strike up conversations whilst we're in motion. But I can sort of understand why he might do that, because you leave sort of bewildered to a quiet cinema, vacating after a 2.5-hour film that leaves you sort of going, waiting through the end credits to get a final end credit sting that luckily I knew was there, but I'm not really sure is worth that. It's just one shot, just one little extra stroke of the brush to add to the very many question marks that I have about the film. Not about the plot, not about what happens, but really wondering what the intention was. And I'm not entirely sure I got it. Suspiria, the cliff notes of my reaction to Suspiria 2018 was that an awful lot of it left me cold. There was stuff about it I loved, stuff about it that made me go, right, okay, please get to the next bit. And there were bits that I was hoping would be sort of wrapped up so that there would be an effective whole at the end when the film was done. Whole with a W, a whole rather than a whole without a W, which is kind of what I think we got. So my honest answer there, whilst I was in motion, to that guy was, I think it's about an hour too long. He said he would have to go home and check out some of these endings explained videos. And I have some sympathy for him with that. It's a film that commendably does everything it can to not be Dario Argento's Suspiria, but the most I got out of it is really, while it's digging into what the original Suspiria is and meant, I guess, to the director. So all the bits that link to the original and a deep understanding of the original informs your viewing of Suspiria 2018 enormously. It's a strange film that is and isn't a remake. It's almost like a thesis on the original, whilst trying to be completely the opposite of the original. And if none of that makes much coherent sense, then you need to watch Suspiria 2018 to understand something that doesn't really make much cohesive sense. And I appreciate that that is a charge that is also levelled quite fairly by people who don't get it at the original Suspiria. One of the things that I loved this film for mining into is something that's more sort of thematic, more sort of transmitted by osmosis through Suspiria and an awful lot of Argento's work, this notion that art is dangerous. Anyone who has taken the time, and thank you if you have, to watch with me my videos of Argento's movies, movie to movie, will know that one of the recurrent themes that we picked up on is the notion of art, and art being dangerous, and murder being art, and sort of performance murder, and art having the power to damage you. In Suspiria 2018, they really double down on that, really lean into it. The mysticism, the spells, the occult art is all through movement. And these dances that the witches in charge of the Dance Academy are putting together have not only artistic power but also magical occult power and can do harm. And presumably the flip side of that is that they can do good as well, if so choosing. So what we get throughout that, and it's a film set in a dance academy where there is a lot more dance practice going on than there is in the original movie, is a weird sense of physicality that sort of transmutes into a really strange undertone of eroticism. This is quite a sexy movie, which is a very strange thing to say, but the dancers, and especially Dakota Johnson, constantly with their warming up exercises, Dakota Johnson is often sort of stretching out her limbs, massaging her muscles. She's always massaging her feet and stretching them out and stretching her joints out and getting her body warmed up for motion. And then the dance numbers. Dance is really supposed to, I guess, push the physical boundaries of what the human body can do in an expressive way. And this being a horror film, those boundaries get transgressed, as boundaries are supposed to in horror movies, to beyond the limits of what the human body can endure and the like. So you add all of that physicality and all of Dakota Johnson's warm-up routines whilst she's making very determined eye contact with Tilda Swinton, and Tilda Swinton is basically eye fucking her throughout the entire movie, and you have a very physical and strangely erotic movie that features no sex in it whatsoever. That, taking that sort of theme from Argento's work and manifesting it, I really, really dug that. I do think the film is too long. When the title card in the film starts and the title card says 6 acts and an epilogue set in a divided Berlin, you'd be forgiven if you rolled your eyes. It is an artsy film, and yes, each act is given an artsy title, and I think it does take itself far, far too seriously as an important piece of work. And I think it really could have loosened up a little. It could have done, the script could have done script versions of Dakota Johnson's own sort of warming up stretches and just got a little bit looser and had a little bit more fun with itself. A less time staring at its own preponderance. The focus of Suspiria 2018 is very strange, in as much as it almost has none. Argento Suspiria, I said I wasn't going to compare, but you kind of have to. Apologies for this. So Argento Suspiria is a fairy tale heightened reality movie. We meet Susie Bannion as she arrives at the airport, travels through the forest to get to the dance academy, and it's very much, you know, the Transylvanian, as in beyond the forest, castle, and the fairy tale witch is there, and the little orphan girls, although they're not orphans, but they're students there at the dance academy. And she is our gateway into this. We start with her arriving, and there's a mystery, and she doesn't know what's going on, and we follow her all the way through. There is no focus like that in Suspiria 2018. So talking about the 2.5-hour runtime, there's a whole story with a psychiatrist called Klemper, one of the few male characters, but actually played by Tilda Swinton in makeup, who is working with one of the girls at the academy who, right at the start of the film, Chloe Grace Moretz, says the dance academy is run by a coven of witches. So again, a complete 180 flip to Argento's original, which is something that you don't find out until the very end of that movie. Right, everyone knows Suspiria, witches, right, let's go, witches. But we follow Klemperer around as he tries to investigate what's going on at the academy and why his patient, a student there, has disappeared, and is it to do with her political affiliations, or is what he described as her delusions of witches there, could that possibly be true? He's our most relatable character, and the one that we follow the most as he tries to unpick the mystery. The weird thing is, it's not a mystery. We know it's witches. We know all of the things that the characters are uncovering. We know practically at the start of the movie, even what their intention is with that character Patricia, and then later on Dakota Johnson's character Susie Bannion, what they're even up to. We're told because the witches have meetings and discuss what they're proposing to do. So whilst there is a revelation at the end, and I'm not sure how heavily I'm going to go into that, there's no sense of us as an audience discovering anything along with the characters. And that's a very strange situation to be in. And with all this extended runtime, and all of these other characters, and right now we're going to focus on Klemper, now we're going to focus on Tilda Swinton, now we're back to Susie Bannion, who's ostensibly the heroine of the entire movie, the protagonist, but we don't really spend very much time with her doing very much at all. She's a very enigmatic character. She's given a backstory as well, a childhood in Ohio that you're always waiting for the next shoe to drop. Why do we keep going back to her childhood in Ohio? When is that going to come full circle and tie in? Which puts you as an audience in a very strange position of not even trusting your protagonist. What's going on with Susie? What does she know? Now, having seen the film to the end and knowing what we're supposed to know about everyone, I have to say Dakota Johnson plays it perfectly. She captures you, she has you, and then when her and Tilda Swinton are together, and Tilda Swinton on her own, both of those characters and both of those actors are absolute value for money and are doing exactly what they're asked to do and telling exactly the story that is being told. I'm just not sure, and it's probably because I'm thick, quite what story is being told. Where Argento's original is a fairy tale-ish, no, but when is it set? It doesn't really matter where in Germany. It doesn't really matter any of this stuff. Again, Suspiria 2018, a complete 180 reversal of that, set very specifically in a time and very specifically in a place. Berlin, 1977, the wall up, one generation of Germans still coming to terms with their culpability in World War II, whilst another younger generation wants to move on beyond that. Running in parallel to the story of Suspiria On the television and news reports is the real life hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 101. There are bombings, kidnappings perpetrated by the Red Army faction, who also have an internal schism within their group. Susie's childhood background plays into that again. She comes from a group of Mennonites who have experienced a sort of schismatic conflict between them and the Amish. So she's come from one sort of religious order that has a schism into another. There is a schism within the coven about which way to go. There's actually a leadership vote in the film as to go one way or another, whilst that coven is sitting inside a Berlin which is divided itself by a wall, and all of these things are rammed down your throats, supposedly with an idea that each bolsters the other, whereas in actual fact they all seem to be completely disparate. See, this is like this, which is like this, which is also like this, and you keep circling back round to, oh, plus this hostage situation is going on, circle back round to the the Berlin Wall and moving from east to west and the like. Everything is nailed down to the here and now and isn't really allowed the flights of fancy. I could maybe understand it or forgive it if the notion was that the schism in the coven is leaking out, and the power that they have and generate is leaking out and affecting these global and historical events, as in with the original. The idea is that the three mothers from positions around the globe secretly run the world, and as much as whether you like Mother of Tears or not, I actually do, there is at least a fulfillment of that promise in Dario Argento's third Three Mothers film, that the actions of these mothers, these demigod-like witches, do affect the world. And I don't understand where the Marcos Dance Academy coven is supposed to sit in this 2018 film with world events. We are told that these world events are happening, and the events in the Dance Academy are aligned cheek by jowl with these world events. I just don't understand the context, apart from, oh look, they're a bit the same, aren't they? What we're supposed to take from that ramming together of one with the other, apart from, shit's fucked up, innit? Well, duh, yeah. I don't think I'm going to talk about the ending in this video. I've tried to keep this as high level as possible. There's some really interesting stuff in there, but you really have to dig for it. I might do a separate ending, a spoilerific one, specifically talking about the ending, because there's a lot of beard stroking and head scratching going on there, and I do want to talk about it, and I really haven't got a full handle on it, and you guys are really good in the comments section at putting me right when I need to be. So, there's some excellent stuff in there. Helena Marcos, when you finally see her, I think she's actually better realised in this than she is in Argento's original. The actual spell working, the dance, the physicality of it, I love. Tilda Swinton is fantastic. Dakota Johnson is superb. The mainly all women cast with only a couple of male characters, one of those played by a woman as well. That's a strange choice. Everyone's saying, just saying, oh yeah, plus Tilda Swinton plays this male character. Why? And it's so obviously someone in old man makeup. So you're expecting some revelation there, and you kind of twig that it's Tilda Swinton playing it, and she's brilliant. But you're waiting for there to be a reason for that. Like Guy Pearce in old man makeup as Wayland in Ridley Scott's in Prometheus and Covenant. They put him in old man makeup because they were going to shoot a scene in Hypersleep where David dreams about talking to the young Wayland. So ta-da, Guy Pearce could be not, they wouldn't have to de-age him, he could be his own age, and they age him up. But they cut that scene, they didn't do it. So you've got this weird. Why is Guy Pearce in old man makeup? Why couldn't they just get an old man? Similarly, I don't understand why Tilda Swinton is playing the psychiatrist. Anyway, it's a fascinating world to visit. It's clearly intricate and fully realised by the scriptwriter and director. I'm just not 100% sold that it's a world that I would be interested in revisiting. It's almost obsessively interested in little details. There's lots of inserts, book titles, photographs, notes, purely designed for the pause button. Poster, Dance Academy posters, signs, bits of graffiti that I need, because they're in German, that I need to have translated, that all seem to be saying all of these details are really important. But if you've seen Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now, that is a film that is just as meticulous, although it doesn't have an ounce of fat on it. Every single shot serves an absolute laser beam vision and purpose. There's even a shot, an amazing shot, that seems completely throwaway in Nick Roeg's Don't Look Now, of a dresser with a framed photograph of the couple, Julie Christie and Donald Sutherland. And one of them puts a mug down and it obscures one of the two people in the photograph. Even that seemingly ancillary shot that serves no purpose is foreshadowing something which the entire fucking film is about. The detail in this seems to be to create an atmosphere like Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now, but without the intent and purpose. Or if there is an intent and purpose, it was completely lost on me. And I know that there are people who've lost their minds over this movie, and more power to you. You got something out of it that I didn't. And maybe there's stuff there that just passed me by because I'm too stupid. I would be really interested in a really deconstructionist director's commentary for this movie to maybe point out the things that I absolutely missed. I'm sure there are things that are signposted in there. I was really bummed out to find that most of the really interesting images and shots from the trailer that really caught my interest for this. Okay, this is going to be a completely different beast from Argento's Suspiria. Most of those images are contained in dream sequences. There's a really good 90-minute movie in there somewhere. Someone just has to decide what the movie is about and edit this 2.5-hour beast into something that focuses on that and that alone. That's my feeling.